Europe has to prepare for hundreds of thousands of new refugees this winter, from Norway in the north to the southern European countries. There will be tens of thousands of new people coming. However, the majority, of course, will still come to Poland, to Hungary, to Romania, to Moldova. As compared to the many other wars and conflict areas where we are operational, is the number of elderly and disabled people that are here. Many who have not fled yet from the war zones in the east and in the south are elderly people who cannot or will not leave the land of their ancestors, the graves of their parents. And these are people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
Grief, dismay, and still many questions are up in the air following a landslide that left at least 8 people dead and 4 missing on the Italian island of Ischia. The tragedy occurred on Saturday in the small town of Casamicciola when part of a cliff collapsed after a violent storm. Rescue work is still ongoing this Monday, with teams having to remove tons of mud to access the interior of several houses. Among the dead are 2 children and a newborn baby. The government of Giorgia Meloni decreed on Sunday a state of emergency on the island to unblock financial aid.
Ça a commencé à la mi-temps. On ne sait même pas qui a commencé, qui a fait allumer le feu, on ne sait pas. Même nous, on ne sait pas. Ça nous étonne. Ça nous étonne, sincèrement, ça nous étonne. C'est pas... Normalement, voilà, le match a été gagné, on doit tester ça correctement, mais là, même nous, on ne comprend pas.
Let's begin overseas, where Chinese President Xi Jinping is facing major domestic unrest. Thousands of people took to the streets in parts of Beijing, Shanghai, and other major cities over the weekend, calling for Xi to step down and demanding his government lift its harsh zero-COVID policy, which has failed to stop the spread of the virus. Well, today, China recorded more than 40,000 new COVID cases, setting a record for a 5th straight day. Elizabeth Palmer is following the story for us.
A man shouts what, until now, few would even have dared say aloud. Xi Jinping! Down with Xi Jinping! Xi Jinping! Down with the Communist Party. There were public protests across the country over the weekend in at least 10 cities, including Shanghai. We reached one of the protesters there on Sunday night.
How angry are people with the lockdowns?
Very, because they're very angry. Oh my God. Oh my God.
We agreed to hide her identity, as this interview could get her arrested. Over the weekend, an unknown number of protesters was arrested, including the BBC's cameraman, though he was later released. The protests are by far the biggest challenge yet to Xi Jinping's zero-COVID policy, which has battered the economy and locked down hundreds of millions of people.
Now to the so-called triple-demic threat and fears it could get even worse following the holiday weekend. More than 3/4 of the nation's pediatric beds are now filled, and urgent care centers are seeing a crush of patients.
This morning, health officials fearing the holidays may worsen the triple-demic surge of COVID, flu, and RSV, as some hospitals and urgent cares are already facing a crush of patients.
Our book-ahead slots absolutely fill up.
Data from HHS shows nationally pediatric bed occupancy remains the highest it's been in the last 2 years, with 78% of beds filled.
We start off with some breaking news. Mauna Loa is erupting for the first time since 1984. It began just before midnight, erupting at the Makua Ve'o Summit Caldera.
Moments ago, the County of Hawaii and the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory held a news conference issuing an emergency proclamation.
The lava is pretty much by the caldera, so we have not had to do any evacuations. We are, as I said, preparing ourselves, and for the last couple of weeks we've been going out. Actually, for the last month or so, we've been going out and also preparing our community.
At this time, lava flows are contained within the summit and are not threatening downslope communities. However, winds may carry volcanic gas and possibly fine ash and pellets hair. Emergency shelters have been opened in Ka'u, at the Robert Herkes Gymnasium in Pahala, and at the old airport gymnasium in Kailua Kona. Again, no evacuations orders have been issued yet, but officials are monitoring the situation and will definitely keep you updated.